Are we?
Looks like we're live.
Good afternoon, I guess, everyone. Welcome to the channel. I'm Ray Still. This is the Gentleman Race. This is our little pitbull pup, Magnus, and my beautiful wife, Sydney. Hey, guys. We are going to do a 2020 little bit of a recap for the channel. We wanted to let you know how we are doing. Vlogs have been rolling out pretty slow. I don't know how you guys are doing through hopefully the tail end of COVID, but tensions have been high. Everyone seems to be stressed out. No one wants to be nice on the social media, but what are you going to do? All right. So roughly 6 years ago, I walked into a small town gym in BC and had no idea that I would be meeting the love of my life. We met at the front desk of the gym. I gave her a hard time and she took the bait, and we have been together ever since. Don't want that scratching your ears or what? We've been together ever since. Roughly 4 years ago, when the economy crashed, oil and gas went down, infrastructure projects just died, we had a conversation, and I asked if she would consider moving abroad. She said, okay. I immediately got a job as a construction foreman in New Zealand, hopped on a plane. She followed me over
3 months later.
3 months later. She likes to be behind the camera, so she'll probably be a little bit awkward, but I mean, it is what it is, guys.
I'm just an awkward person anyway, so it just kind of is what it is.
It's awkward. It's all good. We moved to New Zealand. I started on some small projects for the Ministry of Education in Auckland, working with Better Built, and then I got a site supervisor role with Accent on Construction that later went bankrupt. But, in that time, we had moved me over to a construction company called HEB, and they were one of the biggest players in the infrastructure game in New Zealand. We spent, me, almost 3 years working for HEB, and Sydney just over a year?
Yeah, about a year and a half.
So the last project I had run for HEB was on a joint venture. It's the Transmission Gully project, and I was the site supervisor, or the last site supervisor, on Cannons Creek Bridge 20. I started when we were just foundations in the ground. I got brought in to be junior foreman and help the supervisor that was running the show get across the line. That supervisor wasn't long for this world, and shortly after I'd arrived to the job, he'd given his notice, and the project was mine. It was an amazing bridge, 240 meters long, 60 meters tall. We got an award from WorkSafe and 3M for innovation in construction. A world first, we used a Trimble GPS system to navigate our cranes underneath of 2 sets of 220 kVA power lines, hence the name Transmission Gully. It's a big corridor that transmits all the power across the North Island. Now, my wife came onto the project in the last year. She worked as my site administrator and spare hand, running some equipment and stuff for us. It was awesome to have her on the project. It made it so that I could actually see it through to completion. Transmission Gully, CPB HEB relations were very, very stressful. And that is why we decided that, New Zealand wasn't for us as much as life outside of work was amazing.
Yeah, everything outside of work was great.
I mean, we had
people were amazing. I made some of the best friends I've had in a long time there. We still chat and stuff, but just working wasn't very good.
Yeah, like, the Kiwis are so laid back that it's awesome when it is your recreational time. But if you are a customer going into a shop, or you are a manager managing Kiwi staff, it is that laid back, she'll be right kind of attitude. It's hard when you have a program and deadlines and all these goals that you're supposed to be working to achieve. So as much as we loved New Zealand, like the most beautiful office I've ever had was Iron Gate Bridge in Kaikoura on the Nectar Project. Like I've never even seen a beach that beautiful before in my life. To be able to, build a bridge there and be stationed there for over 4 months was amazing. So many great opportunities for us there.
We learned a lot.
Yeah, we learned a lot.
We learned a lot.
The majority of my workforce was Filipino on Bridge 20, and learning about their culture and getting to work with them. They are such a loving, kind, compassionate, caring people.
Amazing.
They're amazing. Shout out Orlando, John, Tito, Edmundo, Tito, and all the boys. I had almost 70. It was great. Getting to experience the food, the culture, a little bit of the language. I mean, Kaligtas and Muna is safety first in Tagalog, so just so you know.
Even just the culture and stuff of New Zealand and all that, learning all about that and all that was really
like I even had an opportunity to learn about the Moriori, which was an offshoot of the Maori, because I got sent out to push the Chatham Islands wharf across the line for practical completion, and that I almost died out there. My appendix burst on the island, and they have limited resources as far as healthcare is concerned. I mean, the population of the 10 islands that make up the archipelago is only 600 people. So we left parts of ourselves in New Zealand, like actually. It was a crazy experience, but after deciding that we wanted to have a happier, more stress-free life, we decided it was time to go. So we sold our motorcycles. We had 2 Ducatis. We sold our Audi, and we got on the plane March 13th to fly back to Canada. And then they closed the borders on the 14th. So serendipitously, we made it through.
I mean, we would have been fine regardless because we're citizens and all that stuff, but it would have been a bit more difficult. And yeah, I mean, when we went through, things were kind of going crazy, and most people wearing masks, some people weren't, and things were really
I'd say
busy.
Only 30% of people were wearing masks.
It was, I mean, yeah, that's true. And I mean, we made sure to sanitize everything that we touched, and like all of our little area and all that with our seats and whatever.
Yeah, and I think we caught some of that in one of our early vlogs. Coming through LAX and all that was pretty crazy, and it was interesting to be traveling at that time. I have a little bit of a medical background, and my oldest sister, is still actually a nurse. And in the that realm, it's the thing, you need to educate yourself, and you do not need to be scared. You just have to be prepared, and that was our mentality going in. We had N95 masks that the wife had bought from a corner shop. Probably 6 weeks before we took our trip.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, there's some stuff going on. Maybe I'll buy some masks and just some sanitizer and just some stuff to bring with us, just to have with us because we might need it. Just be better safe than sorry.
And I do want to shout out to the Asian community as a whole. You guys have been doing the whole mask thing for probably 15 or 20 years that I've been aware. And thank you so very much for, if you feel like you're sick, donning a mask to protect everybody else from you. The rest of the world needs to adopt that mentality. I don't know where it originated from, whether it was the SARS or whatever, but Western culture, all my bros out there in North America, and the few of you that have escaped abroad, let's be more conscious and considerate about how we conduct ourselves moving forward, having had the education that we have all had. Anyways, so we found ourselves back in Canada, and we learned a lot in New Zealand. And the biggest thing that I felt I learned was being a construction supervisor who is kind of sent around to fix things. It doesn't pay to have a home base. How how many months do you think I actually stayed in our homes?
Well, when we were first in Auckland, you worked in Auckland, so that was okay. And then I stayed in Auckland, and you were out at
On the
Chathams,
South Island. Well, South Island first for 4
Kaikoura.
months. Yeah.
Yeah, there was Kaikoura, and then there was the Chathams after that, I think.
Yeah.
And then after the Chathams, you started working in Wellington, and that's when I decided to just quit my job and head down to Wellington and work with you.
Yeah, and I strong-armed my management and said it was my wife joining the team or they were losing another supervisor because, being honest, I was unable to ask from my staff what my expectation would be and receive that back. Maybe I've worded that wrong, but it's like where my expectations were for someone in her position was up here, and what was available to me, like, it's not even on the screen. I am a hard ass. I'm meticulous in my professional life. I really like to see things done correctly. I like to make sure that we exceed the spec, and it's just about making my industry better. It was really hard to have someone who would work the hours that I would expect first, because, being honest, like, you worked
65 hours a week. You work like 75, 80.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I would have never got a site administrator that would have been able to do that. And, that actually ended up paying dividends because she got some training on some equipment, and she now is running a Moxie at a vineyard, getting that built. And I don't think that you would have had the confidence to do that unless you had been.
Yeah, no way. I mean, just as a woman going into the construction industry, it just kind of it's definitely better. I mean, there's tons of girls that work in on my site, so that's pretty great. But I think just the first job you get as a woman in the construction industry can be pretty scary because, I mean, let's face it, we're not as strong, so we can't do a lot of the physical works. You know, sometimes. I mean, I always give it my all regardless, but it can be intimidating. So. It was really good to get experience beforehand.
I mean,
like how it works, and so you don't go in there blind. So you know what goes on in a construction site at least, and you're prepared.
Yeah, no, it was like overall New Zealand was great.
Yeah.
But with everything that we learned, it kind of had us sit down, and when we were over in New Zealand, we talked about the tiny home thing as potentially being a solution to our problem, always having to move and stuff like that. We thought about buying, selling the twin turbo Audi and buying a Ranger and getting a trailer mounted tiny home, and then just having it set up on my sites and taking it with us wherever we went. When we decided that we were going to leave, that idea kind of stuck with us, and it led us to buy this bus that we're sitting in right now. But on that note, you've got some questions and I've got some answers.
Yeah, so I mean, the whole reason for this little live thing is we wanted to do a just a little review kind of on what we learned and everything about the bus.
Because we've had the bus for 6 months now. We've actually been living in the bus for 6 months. Maybe a little
over. I don't know the
maybe 7 because it was the 6-month anniversary of the bus video, so maybe we'd had it for a month before. I think our editing times were a little bit better then. Yeah.
I didn't have a full-time job. So I'll ask, so what did we learn, or what did you learn these last 6 or 7 months with the bus?
I learned that owning a bus, running costs are, even if you think the running costs are going to be high, your running costs are going to be higher than that. To fill up the tank is over $600, and that will only get you 1,200 kilometers if you baby it. And being honest, this 12.7 liter supercharged and turbocharged Detroit diesel 8V92 TA is way too much fun to drive at 100. It's way too much fun. When I brought this down from the White Horse, I was pulling the air horn and yelling yeehaw because there wasn't another soul on the road, and it was like the most amazing experience to, like, I never spent more than half an hour driving a commercial vehicle before. So to spend, like, what was it 23 hours it took me to come down?
I think so.
To spend 23 hours in like 36 driving this bus through like some of the most beautiful country in Canada, it was just amazing. It was absolutely amazing. So what I've learned is your running costs are going to be more than you think, and your maintenance costs, because it's a commercial vehicle, are 3 to 4 times that of what you would, spend on, say, like if you had like an E350 Econoline van converted, your maintenance, repair costs, and all that are way down, way down. But because of the, like, it's got the Allison heavy duty transmission, it's packaged so tightly in the back of the bus, like you have to remove so much more to get at what you're working on, and yeah, it just really drives the cost up. So the biggest thing I've learned is the running costs and the maintenance costs on a bus are a lot higher than I had anticipated going in.
Yeah, it seemed when we had to get this out of province inspected and everything too, it seemed like that was pretty difficult to find somebody specializing in our old.
Yes, yeah, exactly what Sydney's saying, because like the mechanic that I had locally inspect this for our insurance policy, it was just like an overall vehicle inspection to make sure it was safe to even have it on the road. They wouldn't insure it until it had been inspected. And a girl that I knew in Chetwynd, her younger brother owns the shop that I got the inspection in. And that's just me illustrating what a small world it was. Me and him didn't make the connection when I was getting it inspected. It was after I went and checked his last name and then checked the Facebook page and found out that was Jenna's younger brother that inspected my bus. But where was I going with that?
Specializing.
Oh, specializing. He could do nothing on the motor in this bus. And this bus is a 1972 MCI Challenger MC7, but it was totally redone in 2000 by a company in Lacombe called Prairie Yachts. They gutted it. They put 1996 Detroit diesel 8V92 TA in it, new transmission, all dyno tuned, 445 horsepower, 1,340 foot-pounds of torque to the wheels. All the systems, crazy water manifold, everything in the bus was redone in 2000. But this young kid, who's 24 years old, just came out of school, could do nothing with the motor. I know more about this than he does, because it's all the new computer-driven stuff. And like way back when I worked in the oil field, I worked for Joe Max Drilling. Shout out all my boys out on the rigs if you're working. Love you guys. As well as Ensign. We had a lot of Caterpillar motors, 3612s, 3616s, and stuff of that nature. And aside from doing an oil change on them, like, they were so computerized, none of the motor hands or derrick hands, such as myself, were able to do anything on them. It's pretty crazy that this motor from 1996 is, how many years was that? What was that? 24 years old. And the kids coming out of school as heavy-duty mechanics have no idea how to work on them, because for the most part, it's all mechanical. Yeah. So, what else you got?
Yeah, and I mean, was there anything you would change about getting the bus, or what we've done with the bus, or this year?
So when we got the bus, it had one 12-volt battery working as the house batteries, and that was an issue for us. It was fine. We could be on the generator if we wanted to use anything, but when we flipped over to the inverter, we had half an hour worth of battery capacity.
Basically nothing.
I, in the early stages, thought that we were going to go traveling and thought that COVID was a joke, and the money that we had saved was going to be for us to be traveling through Canada. So we spent over $4,000 on batteries. So we got, what was it, eight 6-volt, 250 amp hour batteries that I turned into 4 12-volt, 250 amp hour batteries. So we've got 1,000 amp hours of batteries, which, like, if we're fully charged, we could keep the bus going for, I think, 2.5 or 3 days. That's way more than we need. We are on my construction site. We have shore power. We have shore water. We have $4,000 worth of batteries not being used.
If shit hits the fan, though, we can just.
I mean, we can bug out, and we'll be sweet. But
bug out bus.
I wish I had taken that $2,000 and done a full service on the bus and changed out some of the bushings in the front end that are starting to get dried out. That would have been a better preventative maintenance kind of expenditure on the money. As far as the money we've spent on the bus, the only other thing that was stupid is I went and I got a super high-end gaming monitor from Visions Electronics, got the extended warranty on it, and then I touched the screen, and because it's because it's curved, it totally destroyed the big section of the screen. $1,000 monitor when the insurance and everything was included on it. What was I doing? It's in a bus. The chances of something other than me touching it could have happened and it could have got ruined. So, I mean, since then we went and we got 2 flat garbage monitors from Costco.
They're not garbage, but yeah.
Less than half of what we paid for that first monitor back when we had some money in our bank accounts. So that is something else that I would change. I would not have done that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. But outside of that, I am happy that we ripped out the stereo that was in here. It had an old Panasonic stereo. It had an old Panasonic VHS DVD, all-in-one TV. Got rid of all that stuff, lost some weight. There's still some wires. I don't know if you could see. Yeah, right. I've got to pull these out. Because, why are there wires hanging out of the walls on your bus, Race? Come on, man.
They're white trash.
I guess we live in a bus.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that stuff in a minute. But, there's some weird stuff with buses.
But why did we choose a bus over a tiny home?
So we chose a bus over a tiny home because a bus is an RV as far as classification for insurance and all intensive purposes, a bus is an RV. RVs can park in people's driveways. RVs can do all kinds of things that tiny homes, legislation has just excluded them, and they've made it so that we're not having alternative living solutions for people.
Yeah, because they don't want people. We're not going to get into that, actually.
Is that too political?
That's too political.
I
was going to say, well, it wasn't so much political. It's socioeconomic. It's just they don't want the people who can't afford to buy a home, to buy something to live in, where they don't have to pay rent to the next person who owns 6 or 7 homes and all this kind of shit. It's just the little guy getting squished more, that's all. Yeah,
because, I don't know, part of the bus thing for me is also so that our income isn't tied up in housing. I have a sister who makes really good money, but as far as I'm aware, 60% of her income goes to her housing situation because she's in Vancouver. And how are we ever going to generate generational wealth if, we just survive because the economy is what it is? The bus for me, as much as the running costs are high, it is a way for us to secure ourselves and make it so that we have ownership of something that, houses us and also can, hook a trailer on the back and we could drag the stormtrooper to a track day or something if ever we get it in shape to be on the track.
On those salt flats.
Yeah. It just has so much versatility, that I think, when we compared it to the tiny home, as much as the tiny homes are way prettier than the buses, there's more utility here. There really is. and it's an experience. Like driving this thing is magical. It is absolutely magical.
The way I say it is it has a motor in it, so of course he's happy to live in it.
Yep.
Big ass motor right
How many horsepowers does your house have, bruh? Exactly.
He
I got
sleeps right
445.
next to the engine.
I sleep above the motor, and I'm gonna cut a little hole so that I can grope
little
it.
mirror.
Grope
or
it.
a
No, I
little
just want
window.
to grope it. I'll shine up that block through the bed. What other questions you got?
Is there any catch-22 that you wish somebody would have told you about the bus before
Yes.
you bought it?
Before we got the bus, I'm gonna grope my beard now. Before we got the bus, I wish that we would have gotten a hold of someone who was doing van life or tiny home life or any of that, and like talked about some of like the running cost things that I wasn't aware of. A, but B, talked about the stigma. I like living in a bus is a catch-22. People either think you're like rich drug dealer, like you're doing well, you got a YouTube channel, you must be making money, this, that, the other thing. They put you up here, even though Jesus, we're broke as. And then the other spectrum is you are a low-life scumbag, you're homeless, you're a degenerate, you're a drug dealer again. This
Not
is
a
like
very good one.
not a good one.
Not a good one.
Or kitty diddler or whatever else because you live in a glorified van down by the river. Now, I kind of wish I understood that a little bit better so that when we were in our early stages and doing things like putting the reflective stuff in the windows to keep the sun out, to keep the bus
Like
cool,
the car visor things.
and like stuff like that, that we might have done it a little bit differently because maybe from the outside it looked like we were a drug bus.
It looked like we had tinfoil all over the windows when in reality we were just trying to keep the heat out in the summer because
we have a dog and we don't want to have the AC running 24/7.
Exactly.
Hey?
It was just something that we wanted to do, and we kind of found out that's not a
It's
cool
not a good look.
comparison,
Yeah,
so-
it makes you look shady.
Yeah, so that was cool to find out. But are there any tips for first-time van lifers or
Yes.
tiny homeowners?
I have so many tips. Tip number 1, go stay with someone who is living the life and take what they tell you with a grain of salt. Take what resonates with you and then get on one of the forums, none of the ones on Facebook, because I believe we should be kind. I don't believe we should be nice, especially to strangers. We should not go out of our way to, be huggy and cuddly and stuff like that. But there's a level of kindness and respect that needs to be offered and given. And Facebook forums is not the place for that. If you are interested in getting into the bus, the tiny home, or the van life, find a good forum and really talk to the people. Reddit, you know what? Reddit is probably the best.
There's like
place to
our
talk to grown-ups.
Schoolies, our bus life. There isn't an our bus life, which kind of sucks. There's just
Well,
our
it started.
schoolies. Yeah, that's my moderating.
Come on, I'll moderate a thing or two. Yeah.
Enough on your plate. But yeah, there's that. I mean, in New Zealand they had like Airbnb. It's not really an idea now because of everything that's going on. But in New Zealand they had Airbnbs where you could stay in a tiny home that these people had built, and they were
Fairly priced.
But they like they were the people that actually built them. Though, right?
Yeah.
So
One of the manufacturers, tiny home
Companies.
manufacturers in by Tauranga. They were in by Tauranga. We went and visited them. They had some Sugiban treatments on one of their tiny homes. It was absolutely beautiful. Where were we going with that? Tiny homes.
Staying in one.
Oh yeah.
So
I
they
would.
had the option where you could stay in one.
I would recommend getting a hold of someone that is living the life, and like if they have a bus like ours, like our couch that we're sitting on pulls out to be a queen size bed, and a lot of people in the community are pretty open. If you are not sending out red flag vibes and explain to someone what you're about, and maybe they'd bring you into their bus or their van and you could check it out and like really, really, really probe and explore the idea. and sit with it, because not everyone is like
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get an idea in my head, and then
Yeah.
there
And
isn't a stick big enough to beat it out of there.
Yeah.
Hey? Oh, really?
We kind of talked about the running costs, but you wanted to bring that up again. What are the running costs really like?
So to insure this bus in Alberta you're looking at roughly $1,800 for the year to get your out of province and stuff done, because this bus was originally in Alberta, but it went up to Whitehorse for 1 year, and I had to go through everything. You're going to want to have, for a van, you're going to want to have probably $1,500 to $2,000 for the out of province, just to make sure any of the niggly things you can get fixed. We were about $3,200 for our out of province, because there were some things that needed to get fixed.
Yeah.
Overall, I think we fared well.
Yeah,
we wouldn't,
really wasn't
I want to
bad.
say this, we would not be in this situation if we had bought an unprofessionally converted bus.
Yes.
Prairie Yachts did an unreal job converting this. It's beautiful. I mean, we do have a list of issues of stuff we need to work through, but if a mom and pop had converted this bus, I could not imagine the nightmare that it would be. I mean, there is Yvon Lacroix Cruiser, if you're a bus lifer. He is doing an amazing build, but he is retired. This is like his third bus, and he is probably the only person who I would buy a converted bus from outside of a professionally converted bus, because there are too many systems that are over top of each other and that affect things. It would be.
Yeah, I mean, we just had a shortage that we couldn't find for a couple of days.
Yeah, our breaker panel, our 120 volt breaker number 7, which is the fridge and a wall opposite from where we're sitting, power outlets, went. We don't know if some moisture got into it or if the heater that I took apart and cleaned was the problem, but it was a process of elimination. Find out what's on the circuit, and then go to every electrical box, open it up, spray it with some contact cleaner. $6.99 at Canadian Tire. Yeah, we bought 2 cans. We only used 1. I did the main 50 amp, 240 power cord and all that stuff as well to make sure there was no moisture, and that wasn't the reason.
There's a lot of snow that's been falling here, and it's melting, and it's just getting all over everywhere, and so it's probably gotten into the sockets and whatever on the outside.
So it might have got into the exterior or through the exterior membrane of the bus, and some moisture collected, and through opening up all the outlets and spraying them, and then cleaning the heater that also draws off that circuit, putting it all back together, and then flip the switch, and everything was sweet. But I don't, it wouldn't be that easy if it was a mom and pop build. You wouldn't be able to go and pull up the schematic where everything goes.
Yeah.
Because that's the beauty of this bus, is that I have 7 binders that have everything. I've got the manual for the inverter, the manual for the dish on the roof, the manual for the extractor fans. I've got schematics for where lines are run as far as the water is concerned. I know which outlets are on which circuit. It's amazing. I can't believe we got it for what we got it for. It does have some issues. I won't lie. There is a major problem with the subfloor in the bathroom. We are going to have to tear that out. I think the shower leaks, and it will be a disgusting mess when we open up that floor. But that is the biggest thing.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, we have windows that are leaking, but I mean, it's like an RV. You're going to have windows that leak from time to time.
Yeah, and I've noticed the issue that we've had with the condensation. If we have the windows open up during the day, then it kind of lets that condensation out from away of the windows, and then just kind of goes from there, and it's okay.
Yeah.
But what are you most excited for in the future with the bus and living in the bus and doing stuff?
So the thing that I'm most excited to actually get the bus to our baseline, where all the service is done, the countertop and everything is finished. We've done the epoxy. We change out the lights that are in the top of the window treatment to the modern LED color changing, and we just get to a good baseline, that is what I am driving towards or most excited about.
You don't want to get rid of these cooler.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get rid of that. My younger sister is very artistic with making things, and hopefully she will save us from the very dated window treatments in Torterra bus. Yeah. Outside of that, a big trip. I want to go to Bonneville. I want to go and see some records get broken. I want to go for Speed Week. I mean, yeah, that's the trip for me.
Yeah, I do want to take this out for it, bud.
Yeah.
But probably the last-ish one. What are the best things about the bus, and what are the worst things about the bus? Taking a little bit from Allie Ward there, she always likes to give those ones.
Boy howdy. I
Boy
think
howdy.
the best thing about the bus is that it is like its namesake.
It's ours.
It's like a turtle. It's like having everything on your back. It is almost as big as an apartment, except for it's on wheels. And it's got everything. We've got internet. We've got, there's nothing that this doesn't. Oh, bathtub. Wait a minute. I like a bath, and we don't have a bathtub, so that's a drawback. Ooh, gray water space.
Right.
This should have been talked about earlier.
Catch 22.
So Blackwater on this bus is like 6 weeks, no problem. Gray water on this bus is like 6 minutes. In all reality, I think it is 2 showers and 4 sinks worth of dishes, and then the gray water is full. That is like the only real design flaw.
Yeah, and it really sucks too, because like during the day you don't want to be doing 4 things of dishes, but it's like, but you got all these dishes on your freaking counter, and the more clutter and shit that you have everywhere on everything makes the place look smaller. It just
it's like it's the easiest. The bus is the easiest thing to get clean, but it's like the grossest thing if it's just a little bit messy.
Yeah. Just a little bit. It's
a little bit, like things have got to get put
It's,
into their place.
Yeah. And we need more stuff, organization stuff like that for a couple of things.
We've like started to go through the bus and pull stuff out, because when we moved into it, we just moved everything into it like it was the end of the world.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, and then 6 months later, we just kind of go through everything, and what we haven't used, we just kind of got rid of
it or put it in storage.
Yeah.
Like I think in another 3 months, we're gonna have another big purge where we go through and like let's get real about what we actually need and what can go in storage, and because it's honestly, if we had maybe a third less in here, everything would have a home away in a cupboard and a cabinet, and it would be so much easier to stay on top of. Yeah. But okay, what does the future hold on the Gentleman Race channel? We are going to do a little bit of 3D printing. A couple of friends and I have decided to get a 3D printer or 3, and we are going to start playing around with that. Hopefully in 6 months we'll have done a vlog where we've built parts for the car or the truck or even the bus, and we can do or some Dungeons and Dragons. We can do some stuff in that space with 3D printing parts. And yeah, I really had an intention of racing this year. The way the things have turned out, I'm not in a position where my salary supports that. So I think we're going to be going back to the drawing board and figuring out exactly how we are going to get involved with motorsport, because that is still something I want to do. I want to go fast. I want to go real fast.
Same as race, after all.
Just saying. So yeah, I think 2021 there'll be some 3D printing. There'll be getting that wide body kit on the car, getting the STI bumper on the car, getting an alternator in the truck so I don't have to have it sitting in front of the bus with the hood up, getting its battery charged, because that's embarrassing when you got your YouTube logos all over it.
Pretty great.
And then, yeah, just fixing the rust and doing the service and stuff on the bus, get everything up to a really good baseline, caught up on all the parts and stuff that we have sitting around so that we can actually get into doing some of the more fun things. Yeah,
Fun
like
things are fun.
doing some work on the truck to make it more of a overlander and doing things to the car to make it faster, more slippery. Magnus, you got anything for the people? No?
He just wants to be left alone.
He just wants to, oh,
Go to
there he is.
sleep.
Hey, see. All right, guys. Hopefully you have a fantastic new year. It's New Year's Eve here in BC. And yeah, I look forward to seeing and chatting with you all in 2021. Hopefully you guys can leave some comments so we can get the wife involved with the channel a lot more. That's all I got, guys. Good night.